Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Piper Report. I've been kind of busy this weekend, so I didn't really get a lot done, but this is what I have so far for the weekly crap recap of the week, May 6th to May 13th, or May 7th, one of the two. May 7th to May 13th. So I will go over some. One of them that is not on here, I forgot to save it. I will go over it first, I guess, is Donald Trump possibly getting rid of press conferences. And I would agree with that, because we know that the press is a negative impact on Trump, and not only Trump's credibility, but his popularity. How can we as a country actually move forward and get behind our president if the whole time you only have people in the press hell-bent on denigrating his performance as president? And bringing on senators and congressmen and congresswomen to make claims that Donald Trump should be impeached, to make wild claims that Donald Trump is working with Putin right now. It's really funny and should be really noted about this that the Democrats have two different viewpoints, but they both contradict each other. Either first they say that Donald Trump is incompetent and he has no business being president because he is truly retarded. Yet they claim that he is a genius because he was able to do a ruse over everybody in America, hoodwink everybody in America, and become the president by secretly colluding with Russia and being so brilliant to hide the evidence. They call him a Putin puppet. He is a stooge for Putin. So he must be really genius if he's able to get away with it for this long, for the last 2.5 years, and systematically be bringing down America, but at the same time working with Putin. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say that he is incompetent and he's retarded and doesn't know anything, but at the same time say he is part of this masterful hoodwink, this masterful strategy he is using with Putin to bring down America and crash the establishment of America. It just doesn't work. Yet they want to make those are the two primary narratives, and they both contradict each other. It's quite funny. But with the whole now press conferences, I still think that Donald Trump needs to inform the people about what is happening in the White House and inform the American people about his political agenda and subsequent policies he will try to implement in the next 100 days, and so on and so forth. And he can do that without having to acquiesce to all the biased, partial questions and statements and derogatory comments made at him and his press staff, like Sean Spicer and Sanders, what's her name? Forgot her first name. Huckabee Sanders. I can't remember her first name. This would be good. He could still use Twitter like he is now. Don't get me wrong, some of his Twitter feed I disagree with. I don't think he should be doing, but he could use Twitter in a more professional sense. That is, he could post a link or something like, here to read about my next 100-day strategy, blah, blah. And in the link, you click it, and it takes you to the White House website where he has basically a press briefing for people there. Or he could have people like Sean Spicer give a press report, give a press briefing, but don't take any questions. Because what is obvious, I think, to most people, even those who absolutely despise Trump, is that the media and those on the left, and even some on the right, are doing everything they can to try to demolish and destroy Donald Trump so they can lead to the subsequent impeachment of Donald Trump. And I don't think he should give in to this. I think he should say, you know what, screw you. I'm not going to let you do that, because it's obvious what game you are playing. It is obvious what you're trying to do to this administration and, by default, America. Because when you attack and you hurt the president of America, you are also attacking and hurting the integrity of America, the foundation of America. It doesn't matter how much you despise your president. He is your president. You should get behind him. How many people were so devastated over Obama? Obama promised fundamental change. Obama grew up with socialist and communist proclivities in his household. And how many people are afraid of him? But when people like, I'll use Glenn Beck as an example because he was torched by the left, when they brought up their insecurities over Obama and his future policy, they were laughed at. They were called radicals. They were called fools that have no business even being in politics because you should back your president. It doesn't matter what his upbringing was. He is your president now. And if you don't support him, you are a bigot or you are a racist because he so happens to be black. They use that argument the whole time. And the thing is, 8 years of Obama was rough, yet we all got through it. And you might despise Trump, but you will get through it. But the media likes to play this card. They like to play this narrative that you won't get through it, that you have to impeach Trump. There has to be so much negative perception of Trump that he has to step down or be impeached. Because if he does not step down, then he will destroy America. And that's exactly the whole narrative. And the same thing was happening when Obama was president. People had that same proclivity, that same belief. But that inclination to have that belief is common, and it is fostered by the loss of your candidate. But you have to move on. You have to accept what is what, and you have to get behind them. You have to try to see things from their point of view, and not just attack and denigrate and demean and all the stuff you want to do to him. Get behind him and let's see if maybe the country will actually get better. So I kind of digress there a little bit, but until we see some more positive outlook and more positive reporting of Donald Trump, I think he should completely eliminate the press briefings. Still give a briefing, but don't give them the ability, don't give them the honor, I should say, to be able to ask demeaning questions, or not even ask demeaning questions, because you can ask demeaning questions. Don't give them the honor to state demeaning comments in the White House, because they have no right to do it. Nowadays, too, people, news agencies and organizations can use the comment of anonymous sources exponentially and then get by with it now. When Trump fired Comey, actually I'll get to that next here. All right, let's move on here. I'll just do that right away. So when Trump fired Comey here, there was fake news immediately reported that this was right after Comey asked for more resources about the Trump and Russia investigation, and like how I think one of them was Comey asked for like more funds for the investigation. This is all fake news. This did not happen. Yet you go on Twitter, you read Donald Trump's Twitter, his haters, they say, oh, it's funny you fire him right after he asked for more resources to investigate you. No, that never happened. Sorry, it didn't happen. Comey did not do that. But they used that narrative. They reported that false statement, that false reporting, by using a scapegoat of a source that you cannot name. But where does it end then? You can use an anonymous source for anything. Oh, Donald Trump's having an affair with Mike Pence, says a source close to close to the presidency. See, where does it end? And this anonymous source crap, it used to be, I think, used sporadically. It used to be used at appropriate times. But now, for the media to actually drive home their narrative, for the media to drive home what they want the people to perceive Trump as, they can use that whole scapegoat for any little thing. They can use it all the time. And what's most severe about this type of mentality and this type of reporting is that when they are proven wrong, which inevitably always does happen, they don't report on it. They just let it go. So the initial outrage and the initial negative perception of Trump when that first reporting came out is still dominant, because the subsequent reconciliation of that article, the subsequent admitting that it was not true, is not reported. And therefore, people only see the initial article. They don't see the subsequent article that, wait, turns out this is not true at all. So people still have that negative perception of Trump. And people still have that negative viewpoint of Trump. And people still believe, as a case of this, that Comey was fired because he started asking for money and resources to investigate Donald Trump and Putin. They always want to make these outrageous, outlandish claims of Donald Trump and his transgressions. but they use a scapegoat as a source to further support their claims. But when the truth comes out, they don't report on the truth. They don't report that they were actually wrong in their initial assessment of Donald Trump. So it's a win-win for them. They get the public to view Trump negatively. And then, when the truth comes out, the people don't know about it. So they still view Trump negatively. And that is sad. Here's the article. Washington. President Trump on Tuesday fired the director of FBI, James B. Comey, abruptly terming the leader of a wide-ranging criminal investigation into whether Mr. Trump's advisors colluded with the Russian government to steer the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. I'm happy New York Times at least wrote this right. Mr. Trump's advisors. That isn't really that right either. It's staffers. People like Maxine Waters are saying that Donald Trump himself is being investigated by the FBI. No, he's not. We know that he's not. Even Dianne Feinstein, who is a communist in California, said he is not part of the investigation. Donald Trump's letter for firing Comey was brilliant because he played the media for the fools they are. He wrote in it, "I appreciate you telling me, James Comey, that I am not under investigation on 3 separate occasions." So it was quite brilliant now because he knowingly, obviously, did on purpose, but he got the word out that Comey already said that you are not under investigation, Donald Trump. Some people that you worked for may have been, but that does not mean you are guilty. You can't control who works for you. It's just like heads of major businesses whose employers or employees, maybe some of them are engaged in illicit activity. That doesn't mean the boss is. The stunning development in Mr. Trump's nascent presidency drew comparisons to Richard M. Nixon's infamous Saturday Night Massacre, in which Nixon purged the Justice Department in the middle of the Watergate investigation. Yeah, but that's not true either, because nothing what Trump did is anything close to Nixon's. The whole point of this, too, what really important to note is that the Democrats are the ones that wanted Comey fired for the longest time, but yet now they are the ones that actually defend it. They defend him. They think he should still be in his spot. So what has changed? What has changed in the last few days that leads a man to have zero credibility from like people like Maxine Waters and other Democrats to all of a sudden be absolutely competent to investigate Donald Trump? And when they even make claims yet that Donald Trump worked with Comey. There's actually conspiracy theories out there that Donald Trump worked with Comey to win the presidency. That Comey knew about the Trump-Putin connection all along, but since he couldn't do anything about Hillary, he didn't enforce it on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump became president. He knew about Russia hacking the voting machines, which is not true at all, but that's part of the conspiracy. That Russia hacked voting machines to give Trump the victory. And since Comey couldn't prove anything on Hillary, he decided to get at her a different way to get Donald Trump elected. That's insane. That is insane. Yet people believe that. People have that viewpoint, that perception. It blows my mind. Let's scroll down a little bit. The president has the authority to fire the FBI director for any reason. Officials at the FBI said they learned through the news reports of Mr. Comey's dismissal, which Mr. Trump described as effective immediately. Okay, also on this now too. Another narrative being forced, which is part of the overall narrative, is that Donald Trump fired, by firing Comey, Donald Trump fired the investigation into him. By firing Comey, he ended the investigation into his past staffers. That is not true. Donald Trump did not fire the FBI. He fired Comey. And the person who is in charge right now, McCabe, his wife is a well-known Democrat who has actually donated money to Hillary Clinton's campaign. That takes a lot of balls on Trump to fire somebody and put in his place, someone who is there maybe temporarily. We don't know, but yet whose wife works with Hillary Clinton, who liked Hillary Clinton. And there's even other theories out there that McCabe was responsible for Hillary Clinton not being indicted because he is part of the whole Clinton establishment and the Washington establishment and the corruption it entails. Let's see. Any attempt to stop or undermine this FBI investigation would raise grave constitutional crisis issues, said Senator Richard Durbin. Oh, Durbin, God. We await clarification by the White House as soon as possible as to whether this investigation will continue and whether it will have a credible lead so that we know that it'll have a just outcome. Yeah, about that. It's not going to happen. We already know Donald Trump did not collude with the Russians. Some of his people may have Russia ties, I guess you could say, similar to how the Clintons sold Russia uranium, similar how Podesta has ties with Russian banks. So they might have ties to that regard. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump colluded with Russia for the presidency. It doesn't mean that him and Putin work together. Because remember, you want to say Donald Trump is an idiot, but yet he has to be brilliant enough to be able to escape the intelligence services and the people that leaked the documents in the intelligence services. He has to be able to cover himself to such a degree that his most brilliant and crazy plan cannot be discovered ever. Because he is so brilliant, but yet he's so dumb. Which one is it? You can't have it both ways. You can't say he is a retarded, incompetent, dumb president, but at the same time be a masterful genius who is escaping the justice and the services of the intelligence services and the investigation that they are trying to achieve to destroy him and undermine his legitimacy as president. But let's move on here to the next one. This one's pretty interesting. Alright, I already recorded this, but my freaking mic shit out, so I gotta redo it here. I'm just gonna go through it, plow through it, and get over with. Okay. Now, there was a study by George Mason University that says Donald Trump takes more late-night barbs than other presidents. Now, we all know this, but I don't think we know the degree of which he does. Let me read this first paragraph here. 1,060. That's the exact number of late-night jokes targeting Trump, counted in a study by George Mason's University's Center for Media and Public Affairs. Those 1,060 punchlines tower over the numbers hit during the entire first years of recent presidents, Obama, George Bush, and Bill Clinton. And that was for their first year. So let's do a little math here. There's 365 days in a year. So we'll just do 300 days just to make it easy. So 1,060 punchlines in the first 100 days for Trump. So times that by 3. That is 3,180, I believe. 3,180 for Donald Trump's first year is more than Obama, George Bush, and Bill Clinton combined. Almost double that. It probably is when you add the extra 65 days we didn't include. That is insane. That is insane. That leads to such a negative bias against Trump. And the leader of it all is Stephen Colbert. And it makes me mad because I used to like Colbert. Back in 2007 and 2008, Colbert had his own show, The Colbert Report. And in his show, he attacked both parties of the political spectrum. It wasn't his insults and his satirical jokes weren't specifically directed to the Republican Party or Donald Trump. It was all over. He attacked liberals, he attacked libertarians, he attacked conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, progressives, you name it, he attacked it. But now, since he got promoted, he has fallen into the whole regressive attitude that you could only focus your jokes, your insults on one particular person and one particular party. Because you have to spread the narrative that that party or that person is bad. And what makes me kind of mad about it is that people want to say Donald Trump's the Antichrist and he is so evil. I want to ask them. I want them to tell me, if they are watching this video, please tell me, what has Donald Trump done so far as president that is considered radical? That is considered so radical that it gives you the perception of Donald Trump being evil. What exactly? He cut EPA regulations. He wanted to. He didn't get to during the spending bill. But even if he did, even if he was able to, that's not radical. Because states still have the power to impose constitutional amendments or state amendments that limit the amount of carbon into the air, that limit the amount of emissions, carbon emissions and stuff like that. You don't need an organization, a national organization, to impose such regulations and stipulations. You can do it yourself. What else is there? The House passed a bill, which isn't law, but they passed a bill which essentially is Obamacare light. The only difference is it allows states to opt out of Obamacare. There's nothing radical about that. What's radical about that? If that happened in 2008 after Obama was elected, if you could even get a bill like that, that would be praised as an amazing bill designated to alleviate the pains and suffering of those in critical health. But since it's Trump's name under it, it's evil. There's nothing wrong about that. That bill is actually closer to a progressive ideology than it is to a conservative free market ideology. How about the wall? The wall is considered bad. Well, why is the wall considered bad? In 2006, Congress, including Obama and Hillary, voted yes on a border fence, which is in essence the same as the wall. So why is it all of a sudden wrong? There seems to be this psychological perception of the wall is a mental barricade for Trump that separates the superior white race from the inferior Hispanic race. I think many people view that wall as Donald Trump trying to separate his own perceived superiority as a white man and his negative viewpoints of the inferior Hispanics. And they want to use the wall as reinforcement, as their evidence to preach Donald Trump's hatred for all humankind and his goal for isolationism. There's nothing further from the truth. The wall works. Me personally, I don't think we need a wall. All we have to do is stop the benefits that come along when you come to America. Many illegal immigrants come to America not only for jobs, but because they get welfare, because they get food stamps, because they get entitlements. You take away those entitlements, they're not going to want to come here anymore. You don't need the wall. But even if you have a wall, it will still deter many illegal immigrants. And then the wall does work. The wall does work. If it didn't work, then Israel would be probably exterminated by now because they have a wall. But the argument about the wall becomes, well, you put a 40-foot wall up there, I will bring a 41-foot ladder. That is such a ridiculous argument. And let me tell you why. Because although the wall doesn't 100%, it won't completely negate illegal immigration, what it does do, it increases the retention time for the INS and for Border Patrol agents to get to a certain location on the wall and to prevent and avert any type of illegal immigrant from getting access to America. And why? How does that work? Well, because believe it or not, if you have a 40-foot wall and a 41-foot ladder, it's still going to take you time to climb up the ladder, throw that ladder down the other side, and climb back down. If you have guard stations every now and then on the wall, if you even have some motion sensor devices, by the time that person's climbing the wall, you have the extra time you need to get over there and avert him from entering the U.S. illegally. You can then detain him and deport him. No catch and release, detain and deport. And if he was charged with a crime here, maybe this is his third time coming over, then you can send his ass in jail. Maybe he has crimes of robbery or even murder. Then sexual assault. Then you can keep him here in jail. You don't need him. The wall will work. Nothing is 100%. Nothing is 100%, especially when it comes to blockading illegal immigration. But a wall will lead to the appropriate retention time needed to prevent the amount of immigrants coming here illegally. Now, again, my theory is that we don't need a wall. Just take away their benefits. They'll go away on their own. But having a wall and saying it won't work is clearly nonsensical because it doesn't make any sense at all. A wall does work. It's like when you're running. I mean, let's say you go for a jog. You go for a jog and you're walking in someone's backyard. There's a fence there. Is it going to take you longer to just climb the fence and run on the other side? Or could you get to the other side quicker if the fence wasn't there? I mean, that's really simplistic analogy, but it's common sense. When you have an obstacle in your way that you have to climb or use some type of physical labor to accomplish bypassing it, then it's going to work. It's going to slow you down or possibly not. It's either slow you down or negate you completely from entering. But yes, I got way off topic there. But that's what they want to do. People like Stephen Colbert. They make these jokes that Donald Trump is completely radical and radical is insane. But none of his policies are actually insane. Moving on. Will Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson actually run for president? It's a real possibility. And yes, it actually is a real possibility. Because although Donald Trump is a businessman and he does have a business, an acumen and also a business degree, he was also a celebrity. He had a celebrity reality TV show, The Apprentice. So he was similar in some regards to Hollywood actors. So now, I think this does open the door for other actors. This does open the door for other celebrities to possibly run for president. The Rock, I don't know how well he would do in the race. Who knows? But who I think will give Trump a run for his money, if Trump does decide to run in 2020, is Oprah. Now, if Oprah runs, Donald Trump would have a tough time beating her. And the reason is, besides she's a woman and she's black, which are their two main, for progressives' eyes, her two main attributes, her skin color and her gender, of course. Even though by 2020, we all might be gender neutral, so there might not even be a first female president. This might be a first it president, for all I know. But anyways, is that she is considered a philanthropist and an altruist. So people like that about her. It started off as a joke, then it became more serious. Now Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says running for president in 2020 is a real possibility. The pro wrestler and Hollywood mogul made his latest quips to GQ magazine, which published a highly entertaining cover story on the Star Wednesday. Johnson said it was about a year ago, around the time the Post's Alyssa Rosenberg published an essay explaining why Johnson could be a viable candidate, that the actor began thinking about running for office more seriously. There was a real sense of earnestness, which made me go home and think, let me really rethink my answer and make sure I'm giving an answer that's truthful and also respectful, he told GQ's Katie Weaver. I didn't want to be flippant, he added about what was his platform might be, such as giving joke responses like, we'll have 3 days off for a weekend, or no taxes. Okay, I'm not going to read it all here, but like I said, it's interesting to note that we have more people like The Rock, for instance, who are now considering running for president. Donald Trump opened the door for this, so it should be interesting now to see what will come next. Now this one is a Mark Dice video. This one's funny because this is Stephen Colbert and how his joke backfired against him. Because, I said in the first segment of this video, the perception of Comey has always been negative. But ever since Trump fired him, all of a sudden now it's positive. Well, apparently, Stephen Colbert, his audience didn't really know that fact changed. They didn't know that their perceptions of Comey were supposed to change. They thought they were still supposed to believe that every other Democrat believed in, that Comey was bad, that Comey has no credibility, that Comey should be fired. Well, needless to say that the audience weren't really aware of how flippant and how easily reversible the leftist ideology can be.
Bear, host of The Late Show over on CBS, the Holster broadcasting station, had the first joke during his opening monologue backfire so bad that he ended up blaming the audience, scolding them, and lecturing them about what they did wrong. This clip is from Tuesday, which is right after President Trump fired FBI Director James Comey, which, based off of their reactions, is something that they're not going to get over for another 30 years.
Huge story that broke just minutes ago, like less than 10 minutes ago. FBI Director James Comey has just been fired by Donald Trump.
Wow. You can obviously hear the audience cheering in delight. And
That's great, because even Colbert's face, too, he's like, oh, shit, they weren't supposed to clap. They were supposed to say boo, because this is against Donald Trump. My show is only against Donald Trump. What are they doing?
most of them are liberals because, well, I mean, no conservatives could possibly stomach watching Colbert, let alone going and seeing him in person. And as sane people know, like those of you who are subscribed to my channel, we understand that both Republicans and Democrats have a bunch of reasons why they wanted James Comey to be gone. But the liberals forgot about their talking points from 6 months ago, when they were all calling for James Comey to be fired, and now they're pretending to be outraged since President Trump did it. And so this wasn't the response that Stephen Colbert had expected from his audience, and it threw him off of his game a little bit, and he had to ad-lib before finally getting back on track, and then later scolding his audience.
Wow. Huge Donald Trump fans here tonight.
He was pretty quick on his feet there, ad-libbing, because the audience wasn't supposed to cheer. That actually was the setup to the joke. Here was the punchline.
That shows no gratitude at all. Man. I mean, did Trump forget about the Hillary emails that Comey talked about?
He continued with his monologue, which has the sole purpose every night of trying to destroy President Trump. And the next segment, he brought his old friend Jon Stewart out, and then he had to explain to the audience why what they did was wrong.
I got a question for the audience. When I said that Comey had been fired by Trump, y'all cheered. Why? Is it because what he did to Hillary?
Of course.
You know he's investigating Trump's campaign's ties to Russia.
Since these morons believe that Comey conspired with Donald Trump to hand him the election, then why in the world would they trust Comey to then investigate that very election? That's a rhetorical question, liberals, so don't try to answer it, because we know that nothing you say ever makes any sense anyway. Oh, by the way, did you know that Jimmy Fallon...
Thank you for watching this week's recapitulation from May 7th to May 13th. This is the Piper Report, and I'm done.